June 8th, 2026. And of course, a lot's going on in the world. And we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV and hearing people's various reactions to what's going on in the world and around the world. And hopefully, some of our folks will be joining us as well to discuss these different news stories and all along those lines. Trump calls on Israel and Iran to immediately stop shooting as ceasefire phrase. And even more recently, Iran signals it will halt strikes against Israel after hours of attack. So this is something that the Times of Israel is saying. Israel will stop its attack on Iran, keep fighting Hezbollah, since this round of fighting is behind us, is what some officials in Israel are saying. At least 32 dead after an earthquake and landslide in the Philippines. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about. In the Philippines, a school structure collapses during a quake. It was a magnitude 7.8, 24 kilometers southwest of Boris, Philippines. Search for survivors after that deadly earthquake strikes the Philippines. Xi Jinping makes his first visit to North Korea in 7 years. China's Xi Jinping calls for strengthened strategic cooperation with North Korea in a rare summit with Kim Jong Un. Xi and Kim express hope for greater ties between China and North Korea. Friendship or leverage? Why is Xi Jinping in North Korea? Is what the BBC is asking. And China's Xi vows unwavering support for North Korea's Kim in a rare Pyongyang visit. And Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan claims victory in election seen as a test of Russian influence. And Pope Leo calls war a painful defeat of negotiations as Israel and Iran trade some of their worst attacks and everything like that. Huge crowds throng in Madrid streets for Pope's open air mass. In fact, I'll have to find out if Nick was at that. In a speech to Spanish Parliament, Pope demands respect for the dignity of all people. 1 million people flooded the Madrid streets to see the Pope Leo XIV's flower-carpeted procession. And Israel-Iran strike, as I said earlier, threatened truce, and Ebola is spreading at an unprecedented rate. So definitely that's just some of the news stories that are out there right now. Ukraine recaptured more than 600 square kilometers of territory in 2026, is what a military chief is saying. So definitely looks like Ukraine has turned the tide, according to Foreign Policy, a publication that exists and everything like that. So it does look like there is some movement in a positive direction in that way. So even the Telegraph is saying Ukraine is turning the tide against Putin. What happens next should terrify Europe. Pope Leo denounced what he calls the scourge of sexual abuse by Catholic clergy, and Spain's reckoning with clergy abuse enters a new chapter as Pope Leo visits. Pope urges justice for clergy abuse victims during his Spain visit, and Leo tells Spain's church to help abuse victims at some protests over the papal meetings. Keir Starmer orders tech firms to block nude images for children, so tech device makers must prevent children from sharing intimate images, is what the UK Prime Minister is saying. Starmer tells Apple and Google to ban nude images on children's phones. Child phone nudity laws could largely end online sexual child abuse if widely adopted, is what Jess Phillips is claiming in The Guardian. And Starmer to ban children from sending explicit images. Has Zelensky forfeited an honor and Poland's sympathy? Zelensky ignites fury by honoring Ukrainian World War II fighters who massacred Poles and Jews. Poland's Tusk seeks calm and dialogue with Ukraine in row over army unit. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about as well. She was a first lady at 19. Now she's making her fourth attempt to win Peru's presidency. So Ipsos quick count shows statistical tie in Peru's presidential race. So it looks like in Peru, the presidential election is too close to call. Leftist Sanchez gains traction ahead of Peru runoff vote, according to what Ipsos is saying in their latest poll. So, and then clashes in Pakistan-administered Kashmir kill 7 ahead of a planned protest over refugee seats. The police arrest supporters of banned group ahead of a rally in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. At least 11 killed in Pakistan-administered Kashmir clashes before the rally. And French jet on NATO mission shoots down drone in Latvian airspace. Concern of Ukraine war spreading as Latvia says drone shot as a result of Russian electronic warfare. Latvia says NATO jet shot down drone that flew into their airspace. And European leaders meet Vladimir Zelensky in London to discuss peace. Zelensky's close European ally set out 5 conditions for peace talks. And Ukraine turns to Europe as U.S. steps back as a mediator in the peace talks. And Taiwan says China Coast Guard patrols to its east are provocative acts. Taiwan underscores maritime rights, and China escalates patrols near Taiwan over Japan-Philippines talks. So it definitely looks like some of the stuff going on in the Asian theater as well. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis vow to block Israeli ships from traversing Red Sea. And it looks like even Reuters is saying, why are the Houthis threatening to attack Red Sea shipping? And what does it mean for the oil market? So that's definitely something that folks are talking about as well. Let's see what's going on in the U.S. and then I'll bring in who I've got with me, who is Rick Rosner. Of course, as always, Rick is always here to have some good conversation with me. Lawsuit seeks to stop the UFC event at the White House. So a lawsuit is aiming to stop the UFC fight at the White House. So last second preliminary injunction filed to stop deeply corrupt UFC freedom fights from going ahead on the White House lawn. So it looks like there is some effort to stop the fight there. That's part of Trump celebration. So Fallon says organizing the UFC White House event was unlawful. And Iran signals it will halt strikes against Israel after hours of attack. So Trump insists negotiations are continuing despite the Israel and Iran trading strikes. And spy power deals is the latest heel casualty of Trump's impetuous decision-making. So U.S. lawmakers are warning faulty appointment could thwart surveillance laws renewals. And Maine Democrats plot response if Nebraska GOP tweaks electoral college vote. So Graham Plattner announced his pick for Maine governor. Will it sway the race? So 3 Democratic gubernatorial candidates said they are openly endorsing the Indian Maine unique presidential election system. And 5 people injured in a stabbing at New York Penn Station. So actually, I'm seeing some numbers that say as many as 6, and all along those lines. But this was at a very popular area in New York and everything like that. And in Los Angeles, it looks like Spencer Pratt is definitely involved in the race. So Nydia Raman and Spencer Pratt are locked in a tight race to make the runoff for the Los Angeles mayor. So right now, Nydia Raman has overtaken Spencer Pratt for second place in the LA mayoral race. So we'll see which one of them actually goes up against Karen Bass. But Graham Plattner gets a lift from a friendly Maine crowd after a week of damage control in the Senate. And Donald Trump, and I actually watched part of that interview, walked out of an NBC interview with Kirsten Walker. So he stormed out of a Meet the Press interview when he was challenged over certain claims and all along those lines. So on election claims, Trump was triggered by evidence called out on Meet the Press interview and all in that space. So on that note, I think I'll bring in Rick and see if he watched that interview, because I did watch part of that interview and all along those lines. And yeah, he just got mad and just stormed out and everything like that. So Rick, did you?
I did not watch.
Okay, you did
I
not
just
watch.
saw some stills of his angry little face at that during the interview.
Yeah, he was angry, but I didn't see the whole interview because I think I was just watching clips of it, but it was the majority of it, I think, and everything like that. But and apparently Donald Trump made an unexpected confession while speaking to farmers. So Trump greeted farmers in Wisconsin, but says he could be home watching TV. So he talked policy and politics at the Chippewa Falls farm, and maybe he also told them that they might be in deep trouble and everything like that. So it looks like there was another shooting that took place at an open event. So search apparently is continuing for the gunman that opened fire at an Ohio festival. So food truck vendors described horrific shooting at an old West End festival. And as of 17 minutes ago, police were still searching for suspects after 12 were injured in a shooting near this Ohio Street festival that was looks like it was in Toledo, Ohio.
Okay. We're starting week 11 of gas being more than $4 a gallon national average. Though it keeps dropping. It was over $4.50 a gallon a couple of weeks ago. Now it's down to $4.16. But our national oil reserve the world's oil reserves keep dropping because the strait is still largely closed off. So we'll see what happens there. We get inflation numbers, I think, on Wednesday, and most people expect inflation, year-over-year inflation, to hit 4%, 4.3%,
Oh, wow.
for the first time since, I think, 2023.
Wow. Well, another news story that I'm seeing is they're saying that, and this may have been going all the way back to the pandemic, but children's well-being is slipping across the United States, and they're even saying that some states have improved. Oklahoma improves, but still ranked in the worst states for children's well-being. They're saying Arkansas's rank for children well-being rises to 43 after 2 years at 45, and economic well-being improves for Vermont children while education declines. So it looks like there is educational decline throughout the country, including in some areas that had good education, like Vermont and probably even Connecticut and other places like that. So apparently, the children are still not feeling all that well about the world and everything like that.
So, I mean, Oklahoma's been kind of bad for kids for 10 years since they tried an austerity program based on not charging sufficient taxes. At one point, their budget problems got so bad that they could only keep schools open 4 days a week.
Oh wow!
Um, Oklahoma, it's got some. It ranks low in a lot of stuff. On the other hand, you can buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, a nice house, 2,000 square feet in Oklahoma's Panhandle for maybe 80 grand.
Oh wow! And
So
well, yeah, go ahead.
1/10 of what it would cost in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, Los Angeles got some high prices and everything. I was actually just talking to a filmmaker friend of mine from Los Angeles a
So
couple
as
of days
long as you
ago.
don't have any school-age kids, and you don't need much in the way of social services, and you don't mind some bleak landscape, you can get a nice house.
Yep, that makes sense. What are you hearing about this? Because I know you follow science, but what do you hear about this flesh-eating pest that has threatened Trump's beef prices? Because apparently the U.S.
Oh,
Secretary
the
of Agriculture is going to
screwworm?
be talking about this new world screwworm and everything. Because apparently
Yeah,
it's
well,
got
it looks nasty, and I assume it makes meat. You don't want to eat meat that's been screw-wormed, and it's popping up in the U.S. for the first time in decades, I
right.
believe.
I believe you're right.
Um, and people are saying it's because Trump um, got rid of the department that the people in the department who deal with that.
Yeah. Coming back to that press conference, apparently Trump told the NBC that he never promised not to start a new war, and everybody's fact checking on him on that, saying that he did say that
Yeah,
repeatedly.
so the reason he walked out of the interview with Kristen Welker is that she was bringing up things that he has said, reading them back to him, and he hated that, and he walked out.
Yeah, he didn't like that because a lot of that stuff, even about the fund, which I guess he is claiming isn't a type of fund that people are saying it is, and everything like that. But yeah, he was upset about a lot of things. He even defended the compensation fund and said that a lot of these people deserve money because of what Biden did to them or what he perceives Biden had done to them and everything like that. So yeah, he's definitely was walking back on a lot of statements that he had made before.
All right, so screwworm. This is the first U.S. outbreak in 10 years.
And,
The Texas governor issued a disaster declaration. There's a 20, they say a 12.4 mile quarantine and detection zone. So this is it's more widespread in Mexico, but the U.S. had been able to hold it, had been able to keep it out of the U.S. for 10 years. So this is it started, I guess, hitting last year, and this year has a 32% increase in cases. It makes big, like painful wounds in cattle. And will eventually, if they don't treat it, it'll kill a cow. So,
well, there's a group of women that are very much influential, and apparently they're the MAGA women, and they had a conference recently. So there was the Turning Point USA's Women's Leadership Summit, but apparently there are divisions within the GOP that
okay.
envelope female right could be the making or breaking point for the Democrat. I mean,
So, yeah, my wife got an
for the
invitation.
Republicans and everything. A big part of
My wife got some junk mail from
Your wife got an invitation?
Kirk inviting her to join Turning Point USA, and we're mystified why we would get it, since that's on the opposite end of the political spectrum from us.
I think they're sending them out to everybody. I get invites to Trump things, and I'm like, have they not tracked me? Like, I am not one to take to a Trump event. So, but I get invited to so many Trump events. It's ridiculous. Who's going to be buying a ticket to the UFC match? I think they're going for $1.6 million.
Who's going to be what?
I thought it was invitation only. There's room for 4,300 people in the audience, and then there's a viewing party on big screens with room for like 100,000 people. But I think to get into the main event, you got to get invited.
They're calling them investors, and you pay 1.6 million. Nick's got his invite, right, Nick? But it's $1.6 million to become an investor. That's what they're calling them, investors, so that you can write it off your taxes. And he kind of got this from Epstein when they would do everything as a charity, which I'm surprised they're not doing this as a charity. But all the money will be geared towards going to Trump and the Republican Party.
Okay. So have you mentioned what's going on in the California elections?
Yes, I did. But
Right.
Spencer Pratt looks like he's fallen to third place and will not be in the runoff. And this was widely expected by anyone who knows how California elections work, which is that if your votes get counted, as long as they're postmarked on by election day and arrive within a week after the election. So votes keep rolling in. These votes tend to be Democratic. So Republicans who look like candidates who look like they had a narrow lead fall out of the lead as more votes come in. This is all normal for California. It's not cheating. It's not fraud. Even the California GOP, the Republican Party of California, says this is just the way shit goes. There was more fuel for conspiracy theories because a couple days ago they issued an update in the voting totals, and they showed an increase by 24,000 votes for Karen Bass, our current mayor, but no votes for Spencer Pratt. However, a minute later, they updated with a bunch of votes for Pratt and for Nithya Raman. It's just that they did the numbers like 1 minute apart. But that didn't stop conspiracy theorists from going crazy, saying they released a load of 24,000 votes for the Democrat and none for the Republicans. And there's a lot of bullshit flying around.
Did you watch the Trump interview after he spoke with the farmers, and he had that meltdown and just called off the interview, but somebody kept filming it, of course. And so it's all over the internet. But all he could say was, my election was stolen. It was stolen. Don't you know it was stolen? It was stolen. And the other is the Democrats are cheating. California should be done by now. The Democrats are cheating. They're just cheating. And that's all he said during the whole interview. No matter what she asked, and she would say, you know what, we're not talking about that. We're here to, he goes, but they're cheating and you're a fake and you shouldn't even be doing this. All of your news should be gone. You're just fake. And it's because of you I lost. And she goes, but we're not talking about that. And he just said, I'm done.
He said he was done. He walked off and everything like that. I did see him walking off.
He didn't quite walk off. He ripped off the mic. But somebody had a camera still going. And even though the main cameras had to, I guess, by law shut down, somebody captured the whole thing. And he was rude. let me tell you.
He shouldn't get so worked up. He turns 80 in 6 days. He could get a heart attack. So Elon Musk, here's the if you search California fraud on X, the first tweet that comes up is Elon Musk accusing California and New York of election fraud. And of course, Elon Musk owns X and has maybe more. Let's see how many followers on X he has. Elon Musk has 250 million followers. So he can say whatever the hell he wants, and 250 million people will see it.
Yeah,
Well, that's because anyone who's registered to X becomes an instant follower. Okay. He doesn't have to accept them, but you can program the system to do that. So anyone who registers to become an X member automatically becomes a follower.
Yeah, they've been doing that. I think they've been doing that with Facebook too. Kim, you've got friends in Texas and relatives that were MAGA and everything like that. But as I was saying earlier, the MAGA women are apparently upset at Trump because of some of the promises he made, including keeping down gas prices and a number of other things. So they're saying this could be the swing vote for the Republicans in the next election. So I was just wondering if any of your friends are turning against Trump that were avid Trump supporters in the past, or are they also enamored by him that none of them are turning against him? Or are you seeing any break in their
No, absolutely not. In fact, it's gotten worse and ruder. Like they have become more than just obstinate. They have become, I mean, I don't even talk to them anymore. I'm done. They are the rudest people. You go, wow, that's my family. But no, they have, even if I don't even talk about it, like I go just to have family fun or friend fun, and all they do is ram all of, and I don't say anything. I absolutely keep my mouth shut. And I've even had someone come up to me and go, well, Kim, because they know what my view is. And I go, well, I'm here for a family event, not to talk politics or to stir problems. And they go, but what's your view? Share your view. And I go, you already know what my view is. So, I mean, no, people haven't changed. It's gotten worse. All I can say is the beaches are wonderful right now because there are absolutely no MAGA people there. None. It's great. That's why I go to the beach all the time.
So why aren't MAGAs on the beach? Why aren't there MAGAs on the beach?
I think it's because of the gas prices.
There's none in Spain, so you don't have to worry about it.
No MAGAs.
I've yet to see a red hat.
They're MAGAs, right?
Yeah, I've yet to see a red hat.
But I watched a guy at the gas pump the other day, and he had the Trump bumper sticker and the Trump flag, and he was pumping gas for his truck and his boat. And he had to pay with a credit card 3 times because for every $100 you have to have a new transaction. And he was cussing and swearing, and he even yelled at his kids, are you sure you want to go a whole day on the boat? Yeah. So, that's more gas. And I go, I'm just wondering when you're going to burn that bumper sticker.
Well, I didn't say burn the
but he just, was upset about the gas prices, but he's not upset at Trump. So
it's Biden's fault anyway, as you all
know. Hey, Nick, did you go to watch the Pope out here? I understand he was in Spain and everything like that. There were millions of people. I think he might have been there.
That hit the news. Actually, the Pope was in the city of Madrid yesterday, and he was actually near the place I stayed when I was in Madrid because they have this beautiful background near the Rio Park, and it's just very lovely that he's there. Then he's coming to Catalan. Remember, in Spain we have different problems. We don't have U.S. problems. We have the secessionist Catalonia. They're still trying to succeed. They don't want to speak Spanish. They want to speak Catalan. They're mad not because of you guys with the Civil War. They're mad because of the Spanish Civil War, which is totally different than the American Civil War. It actually took place not too long ago, where the nationalists and Republicans fought each other. And frankly, Catalonia and Catalan were repressed. So they couldn't use the Catalan language for years. It was illegal to speak Catalan. So make a long story short, the Pope's coming to Barcelona, and people are going to boycott it unless he speaks Catalan, not Castilian Spanish, but Catalan. So he's agreed to speak some of his language in Catalan. So, like I said, U.S. has its own problem. You have your civil war, which we frankly don't care about. But we do have our own civil war here, which we do care about.
That was bad times. That was a rehearsal for World War II. It was from like
it was prior to World War II. It was between World War I and World War II. It was the Spanish Civil War, but 500,000 Spanish people died when the nationalists and the Republicans went each other. By the way, the Republicans are liberals here. They're like the Democratic Party. The nationalists are like the Republican Party. So it was
but
both.
They lost, and you had a dictatorial king for.
Yeah, it was Francisco Franco was basically the.
Is anyone watching what's going on with Albania?
No, even over here, we don't get much going on in Albania.
So apparently the Trumps have made a deal with some of the government to build a bunch of Trump towers in Albania.
In Albania?
I think, well, because Albania is a big target, if you ask me, for, pedophile trafficking, because they have just came out of communism in 1997 and still, they're still recovering. They ran all the communists out, and the communists, the bloody bastards, went to America, where they have probably been, spinning their webs here for quite some time. But Albania, I think, is still in that mode of growing, and money looks good. And so I just think that they're an easy target for what, Erica Kirk and Trump were doing in Romania. And so here you go. But the Albanians aren't having it. They're like, you know what? No. And they are uprising by the hundreds of thousands. I didn't know there were that many people there.
Against Donald?
Against the Trumps, against
money,
Ivanka and Kirchner. Kirchner and Ivanka went there to broker the deal. And a lot of people kind of knew from the back that it was going on, but they didn't think that the government would do it without the people's vote.
But there's going to be a small scale uprising against Trump in New York City. And Jacoby can talk about, we've got two like really great playoff series going on. The hockey, you guys, North Carolina in game 3, right, fell behind 4-0 to Vegas, and then scored 3 goals in 39 seconds, the fastest 3 goals in playoff history, and tied it up at 4-all before going down in overtime.
Double overtime.
Double overtime. So
what's the score there? What's the score between?
It's 2-1. Vegas is ahead.
Vegas is 2-1 Las Vegas. Yeah.
What's a freaking
Knicks
were up 2-0, but game 2 was closer than that. But Trump is coming to game 3 in New York City,
right?
Which pisses people off because not everybody can afford to get in and buy tickets, and there's a giant viewing party outside the where they play it, and that's being shut down because of the president. So tens of thousands of people aren't going to be able to watch the game in the streets, and they're pissed off.
I would just ban the game altogether.
Too bad. So sad. Too bad.
I mean, what do you get from it but a lot of lost money and time, wasting your time watching these guys become millionaires, playing a sport and getting healthy and having fun? Go have fun and play your own game.
Sports is a nice respite from
the real world.
It is. I've been doing a spectator sport of kite surfing, where the guys attach this big parachute kite to their bodies, and they get it up in the air. It's heavy. I don't know how they do it. And then they put a surfboard in the ocean, and they lock their feet on it, and they let the kite take them out in the ocean. Sometimes they're flying 10 feet off the water, and then down. So I understand spectator sport. It's fun. To me, it's relaxing watching them go out and float back in. But if if Trump wants to go, why didn't he just sit close by and watch it on the screen? I mean, come on. I mean,
Well, if he has
also
to,
expect him to-
if these
New York-
people are mad,
he-
too bad. Hey, speaking of good though,
Um,
Sasha, your chess show got like
just to
7,000 or 9,000 people
just to interject,
yesterday on LinkedIn alone. I don't know
just
what
to-
you did, but all of a sudden it spiked up, and yesterday, like
Way to
7,000
go.
to 9,000 people watched your chess show. Did you do something different? You know, on LinkedIn. I didn't check all the other sources. I was just
There are a lot of very interesting tournaments and interesting games. It's not the same thing. It could be tournament with so slow games,
Yeah.
draws, or so on. Now, also the system that was used is incredible. That you play one game, you win, you get 3 points. If it's a draw, you get a point each, and then Armageddon game, for 10 minutes for white, 7 minutes for black, but black has a draw odds. So white must win. And in that case, they will get a point and a half. So 2.5 points is not as good as 3 points for winning straight game, but still a lot of points. So there was intrigue. Then another thing is incredibly poor form of Magnus Carlsen, who was actually candidate for the very last place in the tournament, but actually he won last game, and therefore not only he escaped the last place, he even moved to a 4th place. So, but it's not satisfactory play for him. So we had a lot of discussions about Carlsen, this new system of scoring. But we'll see. And there are proliferation of a very strong tournaments, broadcast all of them, and very good commentators. So this is, speaking about spectators sport, chess is becoming spectator sport.
Well, it's
Yeah,
just-
I was just
yeah,
shocked to see a big attendance yesterday. On this was just LinkedIn. I didn't check all the other places like Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and all that. All of a sudden it spiked, and you got like 10,000 people watching your show. And I'm going, did you guys do something different? Because usually, you know, on LinkedIn you're in the hundreds, but not in the tens of thousands. It just was weird. And so I thought maybe you or Ken Reagan or Dan Fleetwood did something, and all of a sudden it just went like this.
I
Right
don't
on my
believe
LinkedIn page.
Any one of us is a great performer on camera or anything. It's just what has the material so
Really?
rich.
Wow.
And we are doing our best to present it. Ken Reagan is doing a fantastic job, and always has the most relevant games. So,
Okay.
and
Well, I'll take a picture of the attendance and I'll send it to you. I was just shocked because
okay, that's very interesting.
it was pretty off the charts, and
Well,
I
speaking of
thought
things
maybe
off the
you
Yeah,
charts,
hold on, wait a second.
Question.
Toby's been trying to say something for
Yes.
a while.
Toby's driving.
So just to point out, chess has always been a spectator sport. So it's just one of those things that people may have found out that, hey, there's a channel talking about chess. But also in terms of sports itself, nobody wanted Trump at the Knicks game. Absolutely nobody. And for him to come was him doing, his Trump thing, and he will get readily booed at the actual game. President Obama would always go to different NBA games. He never went to the championship because he knew that it was a hassle and that it was for the fans. But Trump, everything is about Trump. So him doing this was run afoul of everything about the fan experience. And yes, people in New York are really going to be mad because, yes, they can no longer sit in the streets, hang out with their fellow fans, and actually watch the game. It's the same thing that goes on here in North Carolina right now. Downtown Raleigh, they're having that whole fan experience where you're watching the game with fans. That's just what a normal when you're in the championship throes of any sport, be it hockey, NFL, Major League Baseball. This is what you do. This is how you grow your fan base. Because, it's fun to experience things with others who are entertained by the same thing that you are. It also brings other fans in because it's a whole family and inviting experience. So again, what Trump is doing, it's not so easy as, hey, just go out and do something else, because this is what these individuals plan to do. They scheduled their whole lives around it because these fans live and breathe as that team, lives and breathes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, just really quickly, I want to get to something for Sasha really quickly, because I did see an article, and I mentioned it earlier, where there has been news, positive news, where Ukraine has recaptured more than 600 square kilometers of territory in 2026. So your take on this, because it does look like the war has definitely turned in the favor of Ukraine and everything like that. So that's even something that a lot of the military chiefs are saying, is that more and more of the land is being liberated from that had been controlled by Russia.
It's a great comedy. You can play it in the theater, where Ukraine is clearly winning the war. Russians cannot do anything at all, and yet Zelensky asking Putin for peace talks and meetings here and there and so on, and Putin says no, while losing the war outright. The Crimea, Ukrainians even don't have to take over Crimea, because Crimea is completely dominated by Ukrainian drones and missiles and so on. There's no gasoline. People are suffering in Crimea. They cannot get back to the mainland, and they cannot use this awful bridge, which could be bombed anytime whenever Ukrainians want to do it. But they keep it open, so they will be not accused of genocide. So Russians are trying to escape back to Russia, and they completely eliminated the only way how they can do it. So if they don't do it, okay, use the bridge while it's still there. Because this is absolutely incredible situation. U.S. administration is somewhere in the moon, or maybe in Mars, as they have nothing to do with what's going on there. The only good thing is they still providing the missiles and other ammunition to Europeans, for Europeans' money. And from Europe, it's all being moved to Ukraine, and Ukrainians are extremely good at using all kind of ammunition. I don't know what kind of talent they have, using such sophisticated means. Like they have absolute drones like nowhere in the world anybody has even come. Just for numbers, Ukraine this year, they're going to manufacture 7 million drones. You know how many drones will manufacture United States of America? The major power, the superpower, super duper, 300,000. Compare 300,000 and 7 million.
Well, the difference too is the U.S. does not manufacture their own weapons. They buy from other countries. They're not going to manufacture. We keep saying everything has to be made in the USA, but they have this little thing, the Berry Act, right, that said everything has to be proven that it was made in the USA. And what they do is they buy from other countries, have a factory, and all that factory does is stamp made in the USA, and then turns around and sells a contract to the government. So, and I know this to be true because years ago I used to do contracts with the government. I used to go and we had to set in sessions, and there was no way some of these people were manufacturing the items that they were manufacturing for the price that they were, and they were cheating the system. And I figured it out. I found out. I went on tours, and because nobody suspects a woman in engineering to be intelligent. So,
but Kim, how you're planning to bring down to the United States the manufacturing jobs? How is it going to happen?
Well, they do just stamp, right? They just stamp a label, but we don't have manufacturing jobs here. And if they say that they're going to bring more manufacturing jobs here, that's a 5 to 10 year process. You just don't do pop up like a pop up card. You have to train people, bring the facility to code, make sure it can make the parts, and there's a lot involved, and it's somewhere between a 5 and 10 year process to get a manufacturing facility up to code. Very few people can do it in less than that.
Make your life easier. Make it, instead of 5 to 10, make it 5 to 95. So
okay, there you go.
You have a little bit more room.
Well, there you go. But it's a long process, and people don't understand that. And that's why it's just, because we outsourced so much many years ago to other countries, it's just easier to buy from other countries. Now, how do you confirm the security of the items that you're buying? You're just not. But you didn't have that security with the items that we were manufacturing, because we were still purchasing parts and chips and things like that from other countries and then building them into our items. So
I'll give you an example. When other countries are now outsource their production to the United States, one of them is Israel. Israel is manufacturing their own military items. They order them to be manufactured in United States, pay the money, and bring them. So the interesting thing is that there is appearance of help, of financial help of the United States to Israel. It's a mirage, because the money, $3.8 billion, they're not leaving United States. They're going to manufacturers and so on. And Israel now takes positions. They don't need any American help whatsoever. They will buy and pay the money. Israel has more than enough money to pay for it, and to be dependent on US. So Trump will say, Bibi, I'm your boss, you have to do this or that. You know what's Bibi saying? Donald, you power the United States and I'm powering Israel. So don't tell me what to do.
Well, and what's interesting is that 4 days ago, the United States did a tie with Israel called Section 224 of the House fiscal year for 2027, where they are tying the two militaries together. Now, what's going on there, I don't know, because I just received notice of this and I have not read it in full. I had other things to do over the weekend. But it is about uniting Israel and the United States military, which I think now they're going to merge the two, and Israel will take over. The other thing to point out about the Russia and Ukrainian war is Putin it's been rumored that he's been very sick, and that he has had a double that has been doing his work for him in order not to, panic the troops and the people. But it is rumored that he has been very, very sick, which could lead to mental problems and instability of some of the things that they will be doing.
So do I understand correctly that they have to select a double with exactly the same illnesses as Putin himself?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they do that, but that's a good question, Sasha. That's something to look into. I think that, the double apparently is just supposed to look a lot like him. And with AI, they don't even need that anymore. They can have, but somebody's got to go in person to some of these things.
Actually, Putin used these so-called doubles long time ago, even when he was still married to his wife. Sometimes he would be busy somewhere and he would send his double to his wife. And she was protesting that that's not fair. And he says, he's a nice guy. He's clean. He's educated, and he's so sincere. You will enjoy him. Don't worry about it. And then he married her to one of his oligarchs. And they were living in France for some time. But I think now they're back in Moscow.
Well, speaking
in
of
the Mideast, we have 3 ceasefires that aren't really ceasefires. So there's the Israel-Gaza ceasefire, during which Israel's killed 936 people. in the Iran ceasefire. Iran fired on us. They fired on Israel. And normal ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is 100 to 130 ships a day. Right now, it's 10 to 20 ships a day. And I think there's also a Hezbollah ceasefire that's not a ceasefire. So,
yeah, speaking of ceasefires and our ceasefires and everything, hey, Nick, you follow Understanding China and some of these other Chinese websites and everything like that. And apparently the Chinese leader went and met with the North Korean leader. So what is your thoughts around this meeting and what's going on in that space? Because these are two of the world leaders that have met together and I guess are trying to form another alliance and everything like that. So what are they saying on Understanding China and other places about this meeting that took place?
I haven't seen anything about the meeting with Xi Jinping and the leader of North Korea, but I can tell you this: China is positioning themselves to be the leading country in the world in the next 10 years. So the United States is going to have to look at taking a second place position in terms of world economics, or well. So the thing is, the U.S. is basically, if they don't get their act together, and it doesn't look like they're getting their act together, they're going to end up being subservient to China and the Asian market. So it's just the way it is, I mean.
Well, China has always been long-term planning, always. And they have said that if you do a tariff war with us, we will outlast you by 100 years because we're prepared. So, China, all the countries are a lot more powerful than the United States because they have nothing to lose. And they just hunker down and wait it out. The United States
and they watch the U.S. like a hawk. We don't look at China. We don't look at other places around the world, but they look at us and they're looking at every move that we make and they're positioning themselves to counter it. And look at their cities they built. They built these huge, beautiful cities, the infrastructure, the fast growing trains. Look at the airplanes. They're actually buying a lot of U.S. airplanes, but developing themselves. Like Jatovi says, they're building cars that are better than ours. So their goal is to be better than us at everything. In the meantime, we're squabbling about what Donald Trump is building.
Right. They're healthier than us, too. I would love to do a statistic overview of how many people in the United States rely on a prescription of some kind or a treatment of some kind to just exist or to have a little bit of quality of life, versus the people who don't need anything at all that just live. So, I would love to know what that is because right now we don't have healthy people.
So what the issue is, and honestly, I like to harken back to the EV market because that's the canary in the coal mine. What was the U.S. built off of? The U.S. was built off of the car industry. That was one of the biggest innovations that we had. Yes, we have science and technology and all the other stuff. But one of the biggest things that pushed us forward is that car market. And what happened, what's going on right now, if you watch the EV market and how China went about it, that's actually how they went about a lot of their things in their society. Other countries followed suit. And the problem that we're having, and the reason that, yes, we are going to fall behind, is due to the fact that our problem is that we have gotten away from the mentality that the nation is one, that we need to work together. In particular, our priorities are completely off. So if you look at the EV market in China, how they went about it and how they went about building it, this is why BYD is easily the number one EV maker right now in the world. It's taken over Tesla. It's because of what they're building in their cars and how they're building their cars. This is why Elon Musk is struggling. This is why he went over to China with Trump, because he wanted to crack into that Chinese market better, because their infrastructure, how they built their infrastructure, they took and invested into their people to buy EV cars. Then on top of their investment into people buying the EV cars, because they literally gave people money to buy the cars. So people were actually getting money for buying EVs. As they built that out, because there was so much money in there, that did draw a lot of competition. It also drew a lot of people who were trying to steal that money, but that also weeded a lot of those individuals out. So that competitive market built on this capitalism that we continue to talk about, that we love and have, that's what they built that off of. And so their EV battery technology is unreal. You can go to battery stations. They have an infrastructure where you can take your car, you take it to a station, they take the bottom of that battery out, they put in a new battery fully charged, and now you're driving away. 3 minutes, you're in and out, and you're gone.
No,
now you have a
no charging time. They just rotate the
and
batteries.
So even their charging situation, the batteries, because the batteries in cars right now, that lithium ion technology is so heavy and so weighted, and it degrades over a particular time. Well, they figured out a technology that is actually a little bit better. Their battery technology is a little bit more, well, they have some that are a little bit more advanced. Their interiors of their cars, because the way cars are today, the Ford engine is what you're buying. You're not buying the Ford itself. All the technology on the inside is piecemeal. You're buying the Ford technology around the engine. Well, in these EVs, and this is what Tesla pioneered and what China has taken off with, is that, well, I mean, some of the other makers have taken off with, but they figured out that if all that technology talked, then you build a better car. So if all that technology is communicating with one single device, essentially, so you're getting all your diagnostics based off your battery, your engine, and you're building it, and you're running that computer technology, because that's all your car is now, is a supercomputer, and you're able to upgrade that and update that and do all this extra stuff, be able to manage what's going on in your car better. I mean, they have cars that are actually telling people there's a crosswalk. So when it's at a stoplight, it actually shows in front of them, there's arrows, you can walk now, I'm on my brakes. It tells you, there's some cars that where the lights on the actual hazard lights, they become blue to tell you that they're autonomous cars and that they're being driven by themselves. That's not happening in the US. They have the satellite technology tracking all their roads. So their actual autonomous cars are truly autonomous and not really running into, parking lots and beeping their horns the whole time, driving around in circles like the Waymos. So that is what they invested in, the full-blown infrastructure to be able to do this. This is why their EVs are so cheaper, because they're not having to worry about the infrastructure and struggling. And it's just mind-boggling. And that's what they did with their energy infrastructure. Hence the reason why they're not really hurt as bad as we continue to say they are when we're talking about the Strait of Hormuz. They have the largest solar bed they have the world's largest solar bed in China right now. They're pulling solar and doing it better than we are. They're doing the solar technology better than we are. We're falling behind right now.
The reason too is their universal standards. They have to abide by universal standards. And when you do that, everything can interconnect. So you're right, Jacoby.
You have the universal standards, but you also have, and don't get me wrong, there are problems in China and there are problems with the government and oppression and stuff like that. That happens here as well, but we tend to ignore it and think that we have so much freedom, but we forget that we are currently being pushed down by the current administration right now. But yes, there is a problem in China. Yeah, I'm not trying to absolve them of that, but they do have, and they have invested in areas where we should take that same idea and actually invest in our technology, invest in a lot of energy infrastructure, invest more in these renewables instead of spending another 600 some odd billion dollars going to 600 some odd, was it million or $1 billion going to coal now? We don't need to go to the coal technology. We need to invest more in other infrastructures, but we're so focused on this old outdated technology. And that's what's going to power the data centers, which the data centers right now They have a heat footprint that is really harming the areas that are around it. There's just a lot of problems that we have that we're so stubborn in terms of our priorities, and we're not looking at how to invest in future technologies.
Yeah, I mean, we need to invest more. And I think sometimes we become too invested in too much individual, which nothing is wrong with that. There are a lot of great ideas, but I think we need to get back to some sort of universal standards and universal standards on security as well. I just don't think we invest enough in incorporating a universal security standard, which was something I really pushed 4 years ago. Nick's come back.
Well, Steve is back on, but I agree with Jatovi. The U.S. really needs to get their act together and start creating a commission to plan for the future. Because if they don't do that, they're so falling behind. EVs is just one of them. The other thing, they got to see what's being done around the world. Like in Spain, we have greenhouses that are big as 7 Manhattans that keep the food prices down next to nothing. Where, like I said, I'll eat out one day in the U.S. or I'll eat for a week here in Spain. I mean, that's just the way it is. We don't have anything like that in the U.S. We have high-speed rail that I can go from city to city in like a couple hours. It's like going from Charlotte to Raleigh in an hour or two. You don't have anything like that in the U.S. So sooner or later, the United States got to get its act together, or you're going to find itself basically a second-rate country to live in. In the meantime, I'm going to go to David Walker.
No, it's okay. Sorry I was late and got some issues with my lighting today, so I'm feeling well. Got some stomach cramps. But what I will say is that, there's a book by Ezra Klein called Abundance, and it's actually interesting. It talks a little bit about how, many of the Democrat administrations over the last few decades have not had success of executing and implementing their infrastructure plans, whether it's rail, broadband, environmental, sustainability. And so the importance of survival is an abundance of things that we need, like housing and those kinds of things. And I think from a policy perspective, that's actually opened the door for Trumpism, because in a lot of the larger cities like New York or Chicago, you're just seeing many of these policies were run by Democrats. And so there's an easy thing to point the finger, but I don't think it's really a Democrat or Republican thing. The fact is, we're just not getting the infrastructure completed and executed. I mean, billions of dollars of economic announcements, and then you don't see anything for it. And I think that's really, and during Roosevelt's time, during FDR, you saw a lot of it. And so now you've got people in debt. You've got, rail programs that's in California have been going on for decades. Their governor, if he does run for president, that's going to be something that the Republicans use against him, is look at your own state. You can't get it done in your own state. What makes you think you're going to be able to do it for the United States?
And see, this is the funny thing, though, is that it all boils down to the point. It's a priority issue. Yeah. And then when we begin to campaign, or when people begin to campaign, they attack those things and talk about how they're taking the money away. And then it becomes an isolated, instead of, hey, let's make this work and let's make this happen. And then one interesting thing also, when we talk about these failed policies in these Democrat states, but we never talk about the states that borrow the most money are the red states. The states that are the poorest are the red states. So, I mean, we tend to, and you're right, it's not a Democrat or Republican problem. We tend to lean it heavily on the Democrats and forget about all the problems within the Republican states, because we begin to use the talking points of those. But that's when we get into that back and forth, where then it becomes a Democrat or Republican, and it's not really talking about these are the things that we need, and let's stay focused on finishing these things that we need. For example, in New Orleans, when Katrina came through, those levees are still having problems down there that they never really finished the infrastructure for down there. And the same thing with the low-income housing and all the housing that they were supposed to fix in that. But that's never really been talked about. We begin to hit the different things and never really stay focused on our priorities, which we always should. We get into the easy They made me mad, so I'm going to only talk about what they did.
Yeah, I agree.
But
You guys look great. I'll be back. I'm going to come on economics in a few minutes. Thank you, guys.
Here to wrap up and get ready to hit to Economics Monday, but yeah, time to wrap up and hit Economics Monday. So that's another edition of this.